Oh, that's all on my floor now. Hey friends! So there's this little project that I wanted to do, and I said, why don't I just go ahead and film it? Because as things are the way they are, the thing that shall not be named is happening. A lot of people are stuck at home when they might normally go out. And so now is the best time to do some crafts that you've never thought of before, or maybe thought of, but didn't think you had time. So I am doing a craft, and first there's a mini story time that kind of has a sad ending. So if you're not interested in the story and you just read the title and you're interested in the craft, go ahead and skip to that timestamp. If not and you want to hear it, let's begin. So I've been starting a journey, I call it, into mindfulness and peacefulness and just kind of trying to find some tranquility in my life. I suffer from horrible anxiety, mostly social anxiety, and just, always second guessing myself. So as I was kind of going through this, and shameless plug for my podcast, Reading with Carrie, but as I was going through this, I was really into just nature and feeling, like that, like when you walk into a spa, which ironically I've never actually gone to a spa before, but when you see pictures of spas, it gives you that kind of feeling. That's kind of what I wanted for my bedroom. So I added some texture on the wall. I guess I'll insert a picture or a small video here. And so a part of that was adding plants. Now, I always joke as having a brown thumb, which might mean something else, but in this case, I mean, I am not a green thumb. I do not do well with plants. I mean, they're okay, like, outside, that kind of stuff. I love flowers. I love the way they look. I'm just not good at taking care of them. And so, some plants, like actually at work or whatever, I was in charge of watering a plant, but it was set in its ways. And so you watered it once a week on a Friday, and it was happy. And I'm used to those type of plants. So I went and I looked online. I really was looking for a succulent. I was kind of looking for air plants, but I found succulents through that. So I found a few different websites. I actually ordered through, let me make sure I have the right, Mountain Crest. They are a fantastic website, not sponsored, but if you are interested in plants, specifically the succulents, they are great. I love their search function because I searched for first pet friendly because we have lots of cats and dogs, and if it got knocked off a shelf, I wanted to make sure there would be no really major issues, and two, hard to kill. So there are other things too, like, low light, that kind of thing. I'm sorry, my chair keeps rotating. But other than that, those were my main things, was that it was hard to kill and it was pet friendly. And so I got some. It was actually this like box of 5. They would send you like an assortment. So also with that, I wanted some fun planters, because how they came in a temporary planter, which I don't think I have like that anymore, because it can stay in there for a few weeks for traveling and making sure you get your pot correct, planter and everything, but they're not supposed to live in that. That's what I was told anyway. So I ordered from Solidity. It's like Serenity, but with an L. Solidity. I ordered this gyroid. It is 3D printed. It is beautiful. She has several different styles and everything. So I think this is called bronze or something like that. It's plastic, but it is a fun planter. And it also has, it didn't say, sorry, my nail popped off. It doesn't say, but it does actually have a hole so that when you fill it with water, it doesn't drown the plant, essentially. So I was super excited. So I had my little buddy. I have another one, an Odyssey. Can't remember who gave me that one, but this video is not about that, so doesn't matter. And I used like this coffee cup that I really liked, which doesn't have the hole, but you know, I was like, well, yeah, if I watch it, they said, you know, make sure you watch and see what they like once a week, twice a week, that kind of thing. And I also got some succulent feeder or whatever. So it's water-based, but it had more nutrients in it because these are babies, so I really wanted to take care of them. So I gave them water and I gave them a spritz of this. I read the directions, and I tried, and they slowly, no matter what I did, started dying. Yeah. And so I am left with this one. Oh, you know what? I think I might have already pulled it out. Yeah, I even filled it with extra nutrients, succulents. I don't know if I went overboard. I did actually pull the corpse out for this project. I forgot about that. But yeah, so I was really sad. I thought, hey, succulents, hard to kill. You know, I could keep it in my room and it'll be great and it'll be happy. And that did not happen. So instead of giving into despair, I thought, why don't I just make it into a craft, which kind of fits the Animal Crossing. You know, they have those, I was going to call them blueprints, recipes that you can make stuff with. So I decided, you know, it'll kind of fit the image a little if it was actually made out of crafts. So I was toying with the idea of buying, I'm sorry, I didn't even say the most important part. I'm making a Jacob's Ladder, which when you get a perfect town, you get this plant. It's called a Jacob's Ladder. It's also called like Lily of the Valley or something like that, I think. But in Animal Crossing, at least, it's called Jacob's Ladder. It's a real plant. But I was not going to do a real plant because we've seen how that happens. So I was going to get a fake plant and put it in there. But it was like $6 for like a bushel, and I didn't want a bushel. I need literally 3 blooms, as you saw in the picture. It's a really simplified version. That's what I wanted, especially because a real plant's not going to fit in this, or a real size plant. You know, I need something small. So I thought, well, again, why don't I get crafty with it? And so my idea was to make it myself using objects and stuff that I already have at the home. Now, I think I've alluded to this in other videos before. Currently, we have a house guest who is living in our guest room, which is the atelier, which is where we house all of our craft materials. So I did, before he moved in, I did pull out the sewing machine, but I don't really have all of my stuff. So I figured, you know what, why don't I do really basic 101 type of stuff and make a video out of it. So that's kind of like a challenge to myself. I'm gonna hand sew this, and it's just gonna be super easy. I was thinking about getting involved, you know, and having like piping and everything like that, like with the little metal bendy thing. But I think when you see it, it doesn't really move. So I'm going to be really simple with it. So I think I am going to just use EVA foam bent in half, so it'll be pretty thick. I will cut the shape, and then I will cover it so that it looks similar to the flower, and so it'll be felt. And so that's my idea. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Sorry, I can't say super easy anymore without finishing that sentence. So this is gonna be beginner level, pretty much one, basic. So I'm going to convert this to a demonstrative instruction type of a thing. So we'll see how this goes. And yeah, just remember, be kind. If you have nothing to say, that's nice. You don't say anything at all, right? Bambi's mom. No, it wasn't Bambi's mom. It was Thumper's mom who said that. But it still stands true, no matter who said it. So this is not ideal, but you can see I'm kind of sizing out what I want for the sizing, which is what sizing out means. So I'm going to have just a stand of just the EVA foam, and then it'll actually make both the stem and the leaves. So it will stick in to the pot, since I already have this stuff, why not keep it there? So it will stick out like that. So that's about the sizing that I want. I probably do need a little bit left over so that you actually see the leaves come out of the top of the gyroid. I believe his name's Lloyd, or one of them is named Lloyd. I always call him Lloyd the gyroid, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I am going to redraw. This was more for the sizing, not necessarily the way it looks. So we're going to want to draw a better rendition of this and use that as our base. Okay, so this might not look amazing, but this is going to be the base of the EVA foam. So actually, I do have 2 pieces of this, so I will cut this out and use this as the base. This is going to be obviously the stem and the leaves, but it's going to be what holds everything together. Because again, I am not using any wire to hold it up. It always has this bend. In the game, you can't even like kick it or anything. It blows slightly in the wind, but it doesn't really ever change shape. So I don't need to worry about it being flexible and bendable because the plant itself doesn't actually change. So this might look a little funny, but what's going to happen is we're going to use the felt and sew along on either side to keep it on place here. So it's not going to stick out. As you see, this is how we're going to want, but it will be, actually I guess it would be more up there. This comes down a little bit more like that. So you don't see that part, you only see the plant. But this is going to be in here to hold on the flower petal. If that doesn't make sense in drawing form, don't worry, we will get there. But if you are following along, go ahead and kind of draw out your shape and just keep the stem a little bit longer than you'd actually like it. Okay, so now we have 2 pieces, and together it's relatively thick. You can get EVA foam that is thicker, and of course it doesn't have to be green, but this is what I had around at home. This is my $0 craft, so this is everything that I've already have at home making do. So I am now going to basically trace this out, and we're essentially covering this base for the leaves and the stems. So to do this, we just need obviously 1. So kind of we're cutting out 2. But it's going to be covering this. I'm walking through this as if you've never done a craft. I apologize if you are more advanced and you know what you're doing. You're probably better than me. But I'm just going to go ahead and go. So because we're hand sewing, we don't need too much of a seam allowance. The seam allowance is when you go through the machine, you usually leave, it depending on your thing, you know, 1/4 of an inch or maybe even an inch. And it goes through the machine and it sews here, and then you'll have this flap. So that's what a seam allowance is. So because we're going to be doing this by hand, we really only need to make sure that we have enough fabric to cover this very small, I mean, I didn't measure it, but like what, 2 millimeters maybe. So when you trace, you can just fold this over and very lightly trace over it and just give, you know, maybe just a little bit. If you eyeball it, you can see that much. That's how much you're going to need on either side. So if you just do basically 1 of this, then if you're identical and you have a little buffer on both pieces, then it's going to math and equal out that you have both. I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. I apologize if that is a bit confusing. Don't worry, you're going to see it in action in just a moment. An alternative way you can do it, which is how I usually prefer, is to just lay it down. You can actually pin it and just cutting along it. You don't actually have to draw it out. I will say with felt, there's no right or wrong side. It's all felted. That's why it's called felt. But if you are using some fancier, nice materials, make sure that you're drawing on the wrong side. So the right side is what will actually be seen. The wrong side is the interior of the outfit. So if you're looking at this dress that I have, this is the interior, or the wrong side, and this is the right side. Okay, so now I cut it so we have 2, and we'll see that it is slightly larger than our base. And that's perfect. So usually when you're sewing anything, you don't want your seams to show, and so you usually will sew the wrong sides together so that when you flip it, it will be a nice even seam, and you'll actually, you'll not actually see it. Let me grab, here's Pikachu, quite large, but you can see here, this center seam, it was sewn with the wrong sides together. So when it flipped out, this is the right side. Again, that's kind of like what the pattern is, that what we want to see. And so the seam is very, you know, subtle. You can't really even see it. So that's the idea, or ideal, when you're making a project. Now for something like this, because it is such a small project. Oh, where did that other piece go? Since it is such a small project, I'm not going to worry about flipping it inside out. These things right here, this would be pretty much impossible to flip inside out, especially also sewing it and then trying to stick this in. It's such a weird shape, but because I am again going for simplicity, that is okay. So I am going to go ahead and choose the best sides. So this is the wrong side, because you can see that. So that's going to go on the inside. So you see it on this side, it'll be nice and pretty, except for all the cat hair that's on it. And the good thing about this foam is that you can sew through it, and it's also very flexible. So it can scrunch up a little. So as we sew along, it's going to be very, very close, very close. That's the best word for it. So that it, you know, you'll see the seam, but it'll be very, very small because we can really get in there. So let's go ahead and start. If you know how to start a needle and thread and know how to sew, you can skip this part. I will have the timestamp of the next step. Otherwise, follow along on how to thread a needle. Okay, so again, this project is all about convenience for me. So this is just some, you can actually see I spilled, that's coffee. I know it looks really gross, that's just coffee. But I spilled some stuff on here. So ideally, you would actually want to use a green thread. You're not wanting it to be visible. However, I am very lazy and I don't want to go to the store and I can't get into my craft room. So I had this white from a different project that I was doing. So that's what I'm going to be using. So I also had a needle with it. So for projects, you're going to see there are different size needles. I am not the best on what to choose. I usually go by look. If you're sewing through something very thick, you're going to need a larger hole because it's actually going to be a stronger needle to go through. For something like this, you can just choose one of the smaller, the normal average side. There you go. You can kind of see. You don't have to be too picky. Find whichever one doesn't intimidate you. And so literally you can get one of those little wire mechanics that you slip through the thing, but doing this on camera, let's see, I'll move over my microphone. Okay, so we just literally go through. Now some people tie this right here so that you just have one thread and it'll be tied right up here. Some people don't tie it at all. When I embroider, we don't tie it at all. But I find that it kind of can get annoying because the needle can slip through. You have to be careful where you grab. So I actually always double thread it. And what that means, I don't know if that's the actual term, but I think it is you just take the thread and you just pull through. And so that's the length of what I'm going to use. So then I snip it off here. So you can see it actually has a double layer. So there's my needle and the thread goes down, and then you line it up. And I just do a twist around the finger. And then you just sneak this little guy, oh, sorry, I can't do it with fake nails, through the bunny hole, and you make a knot. You can do your knots any which way. There's no right or wrong reason, or right or wrong way, whatever. Rhyme or reason, maybe, is what I was trying to say. And you just need a knot because that's what will be secured into your project. Always try to cut off as much as possible because that could be visible within your project, but usually we'll try to hide it fairly well. Okay, so now starting this project, as I said, all 4 pieces are going to need to be together. So we're going to sandwich it. So you're going to have the right side, the correct side, basically, if it were a pattern. So if you took any notes, if you drew, that will go on the inside. And then your 2 layers to keep it nice and stiff so it'll stand, and your other good side. So this is going to be kind of tricky because the pieces just kind of bend all over. That's okay. You just need to make sure it lines up at the section that you're starting on, because since you did line it up previously, it'll all kind of work together and it'll be nice and smooth. So don't worry about that. So we're going to start at the base, because if this were just a toy, you wouldn't really look at the base. But for our purposes, we're actually going to be sticking it in there, so you're not going to see the base at all anyway. So if you mess up, it's really not going to be visible. So we're going to take our needle. If I can pick it up, sorry. It's a little bit difficult looking through the lens. All right, so we're going to take our needle, and you can see the 4 layers. So we're going to go inside on the wrong side, if that makes sense, the inside of just that layer, not the other stuff. And we're going to pull all the way through. And we do this because then now we hide that part right there, and it's going to be in the side, so no one's going to see that knot, but it'll also actually secure the knot just a little bit more as well. So our idea is to sew between that one and this one over here. I'm not great at, it's called a ladder stitch, and that's what they use for plush toys, so that when you sew, it actually hides the seam completely. I'm not great at that. Oh, you can see actually. Just pull that guy a little bit through again. There we go. You just kind of have to communicate with it, kind of tell it who's boss. So we're not actually sewing through the foam, but if you do, that's okay. It'll be safe for your needle. Don't push too hard. Sometimes every now and then you'll find a part for some reason, like the felt just won't want to go through, won't want to work with you. I don't know why that happens. I'm sure someone who has a doctorate's degree can tell you. But so that's what we're doing. That's the kind of ladder stitch that we're doing, is you're just going through on the inside and then go again on the inside over here. And I might actually go and see if I can find a colored thread, because you're going to see it. But this is great for the tutorial section because you can actually see my stitching. So you can also, just for the sake of argument, one of my favorite stitches, super easy stitches, is going through, again, just the felt pieces. You can see it's right there, but through both of them. And as you pull it, it'll create a hoop, and you put your needle through that hoop. So then when you close it up, you actually knot it. So that's always what I do at the end of a project. So when I get to here, I'll probably knot it and then work that way. So if you run out of thread, you'll always want to knot it and then cut it. So that's really base of how to sew. You need those 2 stitches for this, or again, however you want to do it. Some people go back and forth like this. Really, that is just a simple stitch through, and then they do another stitch through. They just put the needle in more than once. But it's super fast and super easy to just kind of do the ladder stitch. Again, I am not an expert at that, unfortunately. I don't make plushes very often, so you can see it a little bit, but it's not going to be visible when it's sitting on your shelf as a plant. It'll be nice and it'll look like a toy. Okay, so now it is done. It stands up by itself without using any metal. So again, it's just EVA foam and felt. Now I will say up here you can kind of see it got small or whatever. I did not take my own advice and did not account enough space there. So just be careful when you cut it out that you do need enough space to cover at all areas. Luckily though, it was easy enough to just trim away the excess of the EVA foam because it's very malleable. So it's very easy to kind of trim away. So if you skipped how to thread a needle, you'll notice I actually used green instead. I didn't have a green that matched this, so you could still see it, but it's not as evident as the white would have been. And I am not great with the ladder stitch. So yours probably came out a little bit better than mine. But if it didn't, then this is a real life thing to be like, hey, it's okay. We tried our best. We had fun. So before I stick it in here, I am going to sew on the white flowers. So let's move on to that. So for this reference, we're just going to need 1. And what I did is just kind of measured with this, the stem, to see how big I actually want it. You're going to want to exaggerate the all the curvatures, because how we sew this, when it flips inside out, it'll be a little bit more subtle. So I might even go a little bit more exaggerated than what I have drawn here, but that's essentially what the flower is going to look like. And again, we just needed for size reference. This is going to be stuck on the end of this, so we need obviously to make it wide enough to sew on. So I'm going to cut 3 of these, and so we need 2 of each side. You can always be a little bit more detailed if you want to do more of a circular look, because this is very much a side look and feel. Even the picture itself, I am only going to do 2, so it's going to have a very evident seam here. So if you don't want that, if you're a little more advanced, go ahead and do a whole circle. You can cut actually 4 pieces, I think would do nicely. But again, I'm doing short and sweet, so I am just going to cut 2. So again, we're going to fold over so we get 2 for each flower. Okay, so again, to kind of help you visualize, again, this is kind of for the beginner. So again, you need 2 for each, so that's going to be 6 total. And so they're going to then attach on to here and be our flower. Whoop. So we're going to use a different technique for these flowers. On this one, as I said, since I sewed on to, or around the EVA, I couldn't really flip it because of all of these odd angles. So we actually have a very visible seam. That's unfortunate, and obviously there are ways around that, but for the ease of this, I just kind of left it. But for these flowers, we can easily get away from that because we have this pocket seam to be able to flip it. So that's why you kind of exaggerate these, and you'll see they're kind of a little bit wonky. That's just because I already know that these little 3 little puckers are not going to be a really great shape. Again, if you're probably better at this than me, then you can definitely get the exact shape that you want. But again, this is just an ease. This is just a silly thing to have on my shelf. So I'm not really stressing over it. I'm more having fun than anything else. So what we're going to do, again, this is felt, so there's no right side or wrong side to the fabric, but just pick your favorite. And so I'm just going to go ahead, actually, I don't like that guy. So I am going to sew from this point, I use a nice finger for this. So from this point all the way around to this point, and leave this as a pocket. So you're not going to sew that. And I'm going to do that 3 times for these, and then I will be back. Now for my beginner friends, I do want to kind of walk through this with you just a little bit, just to kind of show you, because I don't want you to get frustrated. Starting a new hobby can sometimes be frustrated because you're overwhelmed. There's so much stuff. How do you begin? So sewing really is very simple. And because you're not going to be seeing the seam, you can sew however is most comfortable for you. There's no right or wrong way. Now, because this is going to be folded in, you can go ahead and stick straight through, because again, the right side is on the inside. So think about the right side as being the pattern. So this is what's going to be on the inside when you're done. So you can leave your knot on here so that it'll be flipped and you can't see it. So again, you can sew however you would like, however's easiest for you. I always like to sew and put a knot at the start just so that it doesn't come out. It's nice and stiff. And so I usually, the fastest way I do it is to go through both sides. And as it comes out on this other side, it's going to automatically, you can loop through the thread and it's going to knot. And that is just going to be very firm. That's usually because I do costumes and such. So that's a very thick, strong threading, so that it doesn't pull and it doesn't pucker. Because this is just going to sit on a shelf, you can totally just do basic, I don't even know what the term is, just the basic sewing stitch, and you don't actually have to knot it. It's just a natural thing for me to always go through the thread so that you get a nice knot. And you don't want to pull too hard because you don't want it to pucker too much and lose its shape. But then when it flips through, well, this is because it's just a new one, but you're not really going to see a seam. So it's going to look really nice. So again, you're starting over here and we're going to sew all the way around and stop right there. All right, and so now once you've sewn all of them this much, you're going to have, again, this little pocket, and we're going to flip it inside out. Now it's going to be a little tricky because of the small size, so you're just going to have to kind of force it to cooperate. So let's see, I might need to get, actually that's going to go right through if we use a pencil. Let's try this. And it really is just forcing the little baubles, or whatever you want to call them, little bulb parts out. Oops, looks like I popped through. I'm going to play with this a little off screen, but I just wanted to show you that it's not super easy. So you are going to struggle just because, again, of the size. If you're making it larger, it's going to be easier for you. Why do I only have 2? Where did the inside you can see? Okay, what I thought happened actually did happen. So when you sew, pro tip that I am not a pro at, that's why this happened, never sew, this actually should be a square. Let me draw. So when you sew, you're going to actually leave a little bit of a square. Now, because of the size of this, it's still not going to be perfect. I tried doing that, but I didn't give enough. And so that's why these two kind of got married. But that's okay. I have this third little tiny one right here. And you know what? This is going to be perfect for my lower one. So moving on, I'll just remember to give a little extra space for that. So just to show you on this, for those who are curious, if you had it larger, or if you wanted to, this would be a good time to stuff it. I'm not stuffing it because, again, I'm worried about the heft of it. But now we're going to cap it on to the stem that's here, and we're just literally going to sew it to it. And you're going to have some creasing. You're just going to want to make it look good, so it'll fold in a bit like this and really just kind of pucker a little. So you're going to get some creases. That's okay. That's the nature of the beast. You're working with fabric, you're working with small pieces, and again, because we're sewing this on top of it. So once you get it connected on there, you're done. So let me go ahead and finish up and then show you the result. So I did want to walk through for the beginners how to get it attached, because again, I know some things we kind of walk through, we just assume that it's easy, and you don't realize what you don't know or what others might not know. So clearly, you know, I'm not a master at this, but I know enough to walk you through it. So if you are interested, you can learn more and surpass me. So again, we're gonna flip this out. All right, and I popped a hole in it. That's not a problem. I can go back and fix it once it's on. You know, I tried every which way, and I just couldn't quite get any of them to look exactly. I don't know what's going on here. It kind of looks like a finger, but that's fine. You know, again, this is just a silly thing. Don't take it too seriously. And anyway, so what I have been doing is pinching it in and folding it kind of like, I don't know, I was going to say like wrapping paper, but that's not exactly what you would do. But you see this little pocket, so you fold in the seams to make a little hole. And then we're going to feed it in. So see, so it goes in about here is where it stops. And then we are going to sew. So let me pick that up. All right, so it's kind of hard to do this on camera, but you see how it's pinched here? So that's going to be a fold that we control, because obviously it's going to pucker a bit. So I put the thread through on the inside, and just like we've been doing, we're gonna ladder stitch on the other side to keep that pucker where we want it. And so I'm going to, continue to seal this probably one more, let go of it. I am also standing because I'm too short for this, my setup. Anyway, so we're going to pinch it like that, and then we're going to actually attach it to, the green right here. Ooh, be careful not to let the thread get messed up on there. So it's going, if you can kind of see, it's going from the flower into the stem, you see? So now it's technically attached, but it can come off. So we are going to do the same on this side. We're gonna pinch it. And then as you can see, we just kind of went along with it. You can be a little bit more artistic. So this is actually the back. I probably should have done this as the front, but you can actually secure it on the other side so that you don't really see it. And then of course for this bottom one, I actually tacked it down lower to pull it, because that's the whole point, is that it actually kind of droops. So depending on how this one ends, I might actually tack it to this other one, and I'll let you see that at the end, because they do overlap. Just like that, actually, quite nicely. So I'm going to go back up here and properly secure it. You see I didn't actually tie it with a knot, so that's how it's all coming apart, but you can actually see that's how it got connected. So maybe this helps you visualize it a little bit more, where you push it in and you secure it that way. So I'm going to finally secure it and show you the end. All right, so here we have it. Some of my seams are still showing, but you know, it's fine. So I did go ahead and tack it just once, because they're supposed to have a bit of an overlap, and to make sure that it does keep that. But it's very sturdy, and it will keep its shape. So now finally, this is the part where this is absolutely not a tutorial, because I have no idea what I'm doing, but essentially I am sticking this plant part, this root, in here. So ideally, probably actual soil is not what you want to do. I think it would be really cute actually to make like a felt bottom. There's that styrofoam stuff that they actually use for planting. I think that would work, because again, there's not weight to it at all. It keeps its shape, so it just needs something to keep it down. But since I already have this in here, again, this is all about what I already have. I am all about just free and no problem. So let's see if I can just stick this in here. This is not a good, I mean, that pretty much did it. I guess it should go down farther, maybe? All the way down to the bottom. And, yeah, no rhyme or reason, just literally sticking it in. All right, I am going to probably stick with the dirt and get more dirt and put it in here. So I'll show you the end when I'm done. And I really am just gonna literally fill it up so it will stay. Oh, that's all on my floor now. All right, so first, yes, I am a little sweaty. I'm glowing, really. I'm in my studio, and it does have, you know, a vent, but we usually keep the air low because we like it natural. But in here it gets a little stuffy. So anyway, I don't know how much of that was caught, but I totally spilled the dirt on the floor. But I was able to fill it. I am scared of it tipping out, but you see it's all the way filled to the top. But then you actually see, is this, okay, it's not flipped, it's just mirrored. So yeah, so it's pretty perfect. I mean, I guess the leaves would have to be up higher because it's white. I don't know if you can see the details so much on the, I don't know. It's just glowing. It's perfect. But yeah, so obviously, could it be a little bit more crisper? Yes. If I were going to sell this or something, yes, I would definitely make sure my pattern is perfect. But for, you know, a silly craft, now I did do this, I went a little slower because I recorded some of it, so it did take me like 2 hours. But if you're just kind of like hanging out, watching a movie, this is so easy. Again, I didn't use anything but my hands, so I used a needle, some thread, and some felt. So nothing is required, no hardware is required. Obviously, if you want to get your own Lloyd gyroid from Solidity, I will provide a link in the description. Again, I'm not affiliated with her at all. I just think it's adorable, and I have so much fun seeing this guy on the shelf, and I was so sad that he lost his plant. So now he is official. If you'd like to see me earn my Jacob's Ladder in my own Animal Crossing game, or Fell Harbor's game as well, head on over to our Animal Crossing playlist, where you can actually see our tour. I actually have to fill it in. I did some updates, and I got some very special neighbors, that's the word. I got some very special neighbors that I want to share with everybody. So I have to make that. I keep meaning to. I have to clean my room, my house, my Animal Crossing house, not my room. And I just haven't, so I'm just like, I don't want guests over, it's still messy, but anyway, I do need to show that off. So I hope you enjoyed. Obviously this is super simple, super basic. If you like this kind of content, obviously I'm kind of working on the camera angles and everything, so let me know any suggestions or advice you have of, hey, I'd really prefer this angle, or make sure you get that angle. I also wanted to kind of do this as a basic thing as well, so that if you have no experience whatsoever, you can still jump in and have some fun. If you'd like to see this kind of thing as a live stream, we're totally open to that. If we want to craft together, I thought that might be fun. So yeah, so obviously in the future, I am going to be working on costumes and cosplay. Right now, because of that which shall not be named, everything was canceled, so I got kind of lazy with the projects I was going to work on. They're still up there in my head. I just haven't been working on them. But I have been embroidering a new skirt for Rapunzel, so I could totally just hang out and watch movies or whatever if we wanted to do something like that. But for now, I think this will do it. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends. All of that disclaimer marketing stuff. And we'll see you later.